Can you have Medicare and employer coverage at the same time? And do you even need Medicare if you're still working? I get these two questions very often from my clients. And in this video, I'll break down when it makes sense to enroll in Medicare, if you should enroll in Medicare, and how to avoid any potential penalties or delays enrolling into Medicare coverage for later down the road. Hello, my name is Edwin John Rodriguez, your health insurance representative. Since 2007, I've had the pleasure of working with individuals and families regarding their health insurance. On this channel, we focus on health insurance with a focus on Medicare and ACA plans. As an insurance broker, I represent tons of companies helping my clients shop, compare, and enroll based on their individual needs. The best part is my help is completely free. The way I get paid is the insurance company you choose to enroll with is the one that pays me for my time. The federal government does standardize that compensation, ensuring that conversations are free from bias. I often tell my clients I'm the best free help that you'll never pay for. Now let's get into it. So the first question that I want to answer for you is, can you have both Medicare and employer coverage? Well, the short answer is yes, you can. But the next question you should ask yourself is, does it make sense to do so? Essentially, if you're happy with your employer coverage and the cost makes sense, that might be the route that you want to keep. But more importantly, if you do have employer coverage available and you're eligible for Medicare, it's going to make sense to compare those coverages. Because sometimes it makes sense to go the Medicare route. Other times it makes sense to stay with employer coverage. And that's where my team and I come in. We help compare those options based on your specific needs and goals. So the next question is do you need to enroll into Medicare when you turn 65? Well, that depends on your employer size. If your employer has 20 or more employees, your employer coverage is going to be considered primary coverage, and you're able to actually delay your Medicare until you fully retire without any penalty. If your employer has less than 20 employees, then Medicare is going to be considered the primary coverage. In that case, you're going to want to go the Medicare route. There are penalties for delaying your Medicare until a further date, which we'll cover later in this video. So we have created a playlist for Medicare and employer coverage, which you'll find on our channel. We have a video titled, Do I Need Medicare If I Have Employer Coverage, which will cover some topics that we're covering here today, but we'll also cover some additional topics that are covered in this video here. So I recommend referencing that video for additional information related to Medicare and employer coverage. Now, next is you want to understand your cost related to Medicare. So then you can compare that to your costs associated with your employer coverage. So the standard cost of your Medicare for your Part A is generally going to be $0. You've paid into it during your working years. And when you turn 65, you automatically get your Medicare card, whether you elect to go the Medicare route or not. You're automatically going to receive your Medicare Part A on your 65th birth month. Your Medicare Part B is going to be a separate premium of $185 per month. Now, that's the standard premium. Depending on your income during your working years, or again, if you're still working, that Part B premium might be inflated if you're considered a high income earner. Now, once you have your standard Medicare A and B activated, there's one of two options that you can go with. One option is a supplemental policy, which can be an additional couple $100 on top of your Medicare premium, or a more common route my clients like to go with is a Medicare Advantage plan. Those plans are generally going to be little to no premium, in addition to the $185 premium of the Medicare. With Advantage plans, there are costs associated with it related to co-payments and co-insurance when you actually use your insurance, similar to how your group insurance is now, where you'll pay a copay or deductible for certain services. So we'll actually compare your supplement versus Medicare Advantage versus your employer coverage and help you identify which route to go, or if it makes sense to stay with your employer-sponsored group plan. Additionally, there are reasons why you may want to keep your employer coverage instead of going the Medicare route. And the first reason right out of the gate is going to be if you have anyone else reliant on your coverage from your employer to be insured. A common example, let's say a husband is working, he's carrying employer coverage, but he's turning 65 in November. The wife, who might be 62 years old, she's not yet ready for Medicare, obviously, and she's reliant on him for her insurance. So if you're carrying dependents like a spouse or a child on the policy, you're going to want to make sure that you understand the implications of disenrolling from a group policy and how that's going to affect the coverage for the rest of your family. Generally, in those situations, it's going to make sense for you to stay with the employer-sponsored group plan and continue to carry your dependents on the coverage for the remainder of the duration. Now, once it becomes time to fully retire, then we can discuss additional plan options for the dependents in your household and what options are available to them individually if they're not yet ready for Medicare as well. Sometimes it might make sense to stay with the employer group plan. Other times it might make sense to go straight to Medicare. Now, if you do that and you are dropping the coverage and dependents are tied to that policy, you have the option to consider marketplace plans through the Affordable Care Act. or through healthcare.gov, which we help our clients with as well. So going back to that example, the husband's turning 65, the wife is 62. What we can do sometimes is find a plan through the marketplace that's going to be very affordable premium for the person who's 62 years old, and then put the person who's on Medicare onto a Medicare plan of their choice. By doing so, that can generate decrease overall premiums, especially if you're comparing this to COBRA. So if you're actually retiring at 65 and you don't want to have your spouse covered through COBRA, because generally that's more expensive, consider giving us a call for that as well. We can help with educating you and your spouse on the options available through the marketplace or the Affordable Care Act plans. Now, if you decide to delay your Medicare until you fully retire, whether it's a year, 2, 3, 5, 10 years from now, a few of the steps that you want to go through in activating your Medicare will be as follows. First, you're going to want to get on the phone here with a licensed agent or representative regarding your health insurance. They'll remind you of this process, hopefully me. Again, all this information we're discussing today will actually be linked in the description below. But the first step is you're going to want to start taking action probably about 3 or so months before you're actually going to retire. By doing so, it's going to get you prepared for the transition into Medicare. The process can take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks to actually enroll into Medicare. The first thing you're going to want to do is file the form CMS Form 40B, which is essentially your application to Medicare requesting that you activate your Medicare coverage as of X date. The second document you're going to need to reference is going to be CMS Form L564. Essentially, what that document is going to do is it's going to tell Medicare and Social Security that, yes, I'm 67 and I'm enrolled in Medicare now, but I've had coverage for these last 2 years. Here's my proof. So that's one thing you're going to want to make sure that if you decide to maintain your employer coverage, make sure you keep a log of your coverage date that you've had after turning 65, of the name of the insurance company that you're with and the ID number. By doing so, it'll help simplify filling out this form L564 later down the road, which will eliminate any penalties that Medicare or Social Security would want to apply because they think you have not had compliant coverage in that duration. But again, as long as your employer has at least 20 or more employees, your coverage from your employer is considered compliant coverage. We also have another video that we'll reference in the description or pin it in the comment section below, which would be how to apply for Medicare. It'll give you the 3-step process on how to apply for Medicare. I recommend referencing that video for additional information on the actual application process for Medicare. Now, when the time comes that you're ready to enroll into Medicare or shop your plans in general, consider give us a call. What we do is we actually help our clients shop on what I call the 3 Ps method. It's going to be mainly based on providers. So who are your doctors? What doctors are important to you? Next is going to be prescriptions. So do you have any prescriptions that are important to you? And then finally is going to be price. Assuming all things are equal, then we try to find the plan that's going to be the most cost effective based again on your individual needs. If you found this information helpful, be sure to give it a like. That helps others like you find this information too. Additionally, if you have questions that weren't answered in today's video, consider adding them in the comment section below. I read each one personally. And of course, if you prefer more personalized guidance, consider scheduling a call with either me or my team, and we'll be happy to give guidance related to your specific scenarios and needs. Medicare rules are always changing, and being subscribed to the channel is going to ensure that you're staying up to date on all the changes related to Medicare. We'll be posting videos every week explaining all the information you need related to Medicare, and staying up to date is the way to make sure you're getting the most out of your Medicare benefits. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching this one too, and we'll see you in the next one.